Hello everyone, welcome to Just Invest Today, and today we are talking about Etsy. We're going to do a quick stock analysis on Etsy, see if it's a buy, sell, hold, what is going on with Etsy, because this is a big position with me. I'm loving this company. I think it has a huge potential to go up at least 5x in 5 to 10 years. I think the future is still bright for Etsy, and I feel like I don't know, like not a lot of people are talking about Etsy and this potential. Guys, can you please like this video, subscribe to my channel, providing a lot of good content. I'm on the road to 1,000 subscribers, so please like and subscribe. So let's get into it. So we all know about Etsy. Etsy is a two-sided marketplace, right? E-commerce marketplace, buyers and sellers, and it's known for handmade stuff, vintage materials, vintage clothes, furnishing, all that good stuff. But people just think that it had a huge come up from the whole pandemic, and that's just a one-time off. After that, it's gonna go broke, it's not good anymore. But people forgot that Etsy before even the pandemic was growing 30% year over year revenue growth with high returns on equity, averaging around like 30%, like more. So people don't realize the potential for Etsy and like what it's been doing undercover, but like we're gonna get into it. So the strong financial performance despite macro headwinds and challenging year over year comps. This is without mass growth, 31% without mass growth. Non-mass growth merchandise sales, 31%, 10% year over year, 23% revenue growth year over year, 139 million, 26 adjusted EBITDA. So you can just see how just Etsy is growing up, and the thing about the pandemic too, they want to continue hold those buyers because they gain a lot of new buyers, a lot of new sellers. So now the goal for Etsy is just how many times can you get those people to stay on Etsy, keep buying from the platform, and that's what they're looking for. So they increase their buyer frequency by 22%. So that's a huge spike from Q2 2020. And people don't realize that what differentiates Amazon and Etsy is just like Etsy is seen more as that homemade, handmade thing. That's its competitive advantage. So when people think of Amazon, they think about those quick buys, those like headphones or whatever you need to get like quickly. But when it comes to Etsy, its competitive advantage is that it's in the mind share of your head. Like when you think about handmade, homemade, vintage stuff online, Etsy comes up first. Like the brand recognition is amazing because I don't know of anything else you would think of when it comes to handmade, homemade stuff. Like what else are you thinking about besides Etsy? Tell me down below if there's another company doing it better than Etsy, online e-commerce marketplace. You tell me if it's better. And the thing about Etsy too is it makes it more personal. So when it's more personal, there's to be more frequent buyers because you establish a relationship with the sellers. And that's all about human psychology, is that when we know the person, when we understand what their goal is, you're more likely to buy from that person instead of Amazon, where Amazon no one knows who is who. It's a marketplace. You buy whatever, you just go there, buy whatever. But on Etsy, say you understand, you know the person, you're more likely to buy from that person that you know, that you see their videos, you see how they make the products. You're just more connected with the item, with the person selling it. So that's why human connections is actually very important for Etsy. And that's how you can see it as like a long-term compounder. And that's what I think Etsy is. And they just got on the Google Cloud. So it's when you get on the Google Cloud, your like search engine is going to be enhanced greatly. And that's what they're priding themselves on, is that when you search for a product, it's going to generate so many options for you. So you're going to click on this, they're going to click on that, they're going to keep going. It's almost like Amazon, how they recommend you different items and different stuff to buy. So that's exactly what Etsy's doing. Etsy's one of the main e-commerce platforms when you're buying stuff online now. It's just expanding in different markets as well. Like they're growing, they're starting to grow in India, man. Like They're growing in India. They're starting to grow in Germany more. They're advertising more in Germany. They're thinking about India. Like, man, like, I don't know. Like, it's so important to have a good story with Etsy, and people just don't realize that the story is so important when you're dealing with a company. If you can't see in the future that the stock can grow 5 to 10 years, why are you owning it? Like, that's the main advantage. That's like the main goal for us as investors. We have to be able to understand the company and see the potential for that company, the story of it, and if it can deliver. And if you just go back in the history of Etsy, it's been delivering like crazy. And then the next advantage of Etsy is that it's just the network of buyers and sellers. Where else can you go to find handmade, homemade, vintage items with that many buyers and that many sellers? If you want to sell your items online in the e-commerce space, it's like you almost have to go to Etsy because that's where all the buyers are buying from. Where else are people going to think about buying their products of handmade and homemade if it's not Etsy? That's the first place people think about. So it's building that network effects of more buyers, more sellers, because buyers are going to go to Etsy because it's the first thing they think about. So sellers are going to sell there because that's where all the buyers are. And that's just going to continue that network, that flywheel effect, promoting the brand, getting out there. We can just understand like where this company is going, and the future is so bright for Etsy. Like, I feel like it's not talked about enough, but I'm just seeing big things from Etsy in the future. So Etsy's 4 marketplaces now form a house of brands. And look at these brands. Reverb. It has an e-commerce section for music and instruments on the secondhand selling of all these instruments. Depop. People don't realize that this the Gen Z is becoming huge with fashion, with all the secondhand selling of fashion. That's a huge industry. They're expecting that industry to grow at like 12-13% year over year. The secondhand selling fashion industry. So then they have Elo7, handmade vintage craft in Brazil. And we know Brazil is growing quicker than any e-commerce industry. Let's look at what Melly's doing. We'll look what C Industries is doing. Look at what those companies are doing. And Etsy's figured out, like, we got to get into this. We got to get Etsy into this market, growing like 20% year over year in the e-commerce section. And it's just developing. So just looking at the story of Etsy, and they have huge gross margins, huge return on equities. They're still doing M&A. Like, it's just crazy. Like, look at Depop. Depop has a long runway for growth in the fast-growing resale space. Size of the apparel market. The apparel is the single largest category within e-commerce, expected to reach 543 billion in 2025. U.S. secondhand market is projected to double in the next 5 years to $77 billion, and it's focused on the Gen Z demographic. Depop, man, look at this. Drivers of growth and creativity. We see Elo7, a Brazil, Latin America brand, 21% CAGR in Latin America. 1.9 million active buyers, 24 million monthly visitors, 62% GMS. So Elo7 is on the come up. Low key, Elo7 is on the come up. And this is the huge thing too. People don't believe that Etsy, this is always the questionable thing people talk about, like the Etsy TAM. Etsy's giving a TAM of 1.7 trillion. That's the market opportunity. But people don't believe in that. So that's why I think people are so hesitant on Etsy, because people don't believe that the TAM is actually this big, even though they're in fashion, they're in home furnishing, they're in like vintage clothing, they're just in everything. They're in different markets, they're expanding in Brazil, UK, Germany. So you just envision what Etsy can be 5-10 years from now. And then on top of that, Amazon couldn't even compete with them. So that just shows you Amazon, one of the biggest e-commerce players, couldn't compete with Etsy in its own home field when it comes to the homemade category. Like, that just shows you how strong the brand is. And that's super important because that shows you that Etsy has a competitive advantage. It is here to stay. So I feel like Etsy is just super underrated right now. Like, it's super underrated, and The buyers are growing, sellers are growing. It's capital light. They don't need a lot of investment back into the company. They have a lot of cash, even though it's spent the cash on acquiring more companies, but they have such high return on equity, high returns that they just generate that cash right back. So tell me what you think about Etsy, man, because I still feel like Etsy is kind of undervalued. It's not undervalued because like, let's look at the stock price right now. So I got into Etsy around like 150, like I got 150s, 52 around that price, and now it's already at 219, 219, 216, whatever. So it's already had a 38% run up, which has been a pretty nice profit for me. But I still think like this, it's still a long, there's still a long way to go. Like in my opinion, there's still a long way to go. If it goes down, like I hope it goes down to 110, 120. Like I hope it, even though it's at 219, I hope it goes down more, man. I want to get a bigger position, even though I have like a 12, 13% position. I want a bigger position in my account for this. So I have no doubts on Etsy. I think it has a huge future. Tell me what you think, guys. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Do you think Etsy is on the downturn? The brand's not strong enough? People are gonna like get rid of Etsy once everything opens up again. What do you think? What's your thoughts on Etsy, guys? Can you please like, subscribe to my channel, and I'll get back to you in the next video. Peace!